Hey everybody, Nate from Octave Studios here. I hope you have all had yourselves a great week, and I hope some of you are now diving into using a DAW for songwriting. If you haven't, I really advise you go back and watch my episode from last week on the introductory to the DAW, because this week we're going to dive a bit more into recording guitar and writing drum parts in your DAW. Without further ado, here we go. Alright, so last week, like I said, we went over how to set up your DAW. As you can see, I already have my drum plugin set up here. Open that up so you can kind of see it a bit more. So I already have my contact plugin set up. I have a bit more of an intricate setup for mine. I have it set up so that I can have all my samples sending to different channels. So like one of these is my overheads. There's a kick, there's a snare, toms, room mic, and then a spare channel for spot mics. If you want to know how to do that, I can go into it at a later time. If not, look up on YouTube. There are a few very good tutorial videos on how to set that up. That's how I learned how to do this. But that's just so that I have a bit more control over the dynamics of my drum kit. You don't really need to worry about that right now. I also have my amp sim currently set up, and you'll notice I have my guitars set up left and right here. That's because as you're tracking your guitars, it's good to have your center one for tracking. But as you're building a song, it's good to think about like the left and right guitars. If you have two guitars going on, that'll help you work on how to synergize parts together. Or if it's just one guitar, you can double track your parts and just really hear how that works within the spectrum of the song. It also keeps things from sounding muddy, because if you push everything up center, eventually things are going to start fighting with each other. And we're not doing any mix work in this. We're just trying to record stuff and get ideas out so that you are able to maybe present ideas to your band or just get used to writing songs on your own. So with all that in mind, we have our guitar set up. We have our audio device set up. Now remember, if we hit Control P, that's our hotkey. That'll pull up our preferences. Make sure you have everything set up. I'm good to go on this end. If you don't want to hit Control P or you don't know the hotkey and you don't want to go to options, right up here, if you click on that, you will pull up your preferences again. Everything's good to go. I set my tempo for 160. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it, but here's what you would generally want to do when you start out. You're going to want to pick a tempo. Just throw a number out there. Either, I don't know, go online and type in number generator or BPM generator and find something, or just go with some random numbers and keep adjusting it as you go until you find something you're comfortable with. And make sure your metronome settings are good to go. I've turned mine up so that I can hear the click. You want to make sure you can hear the click track as you are practicing, because you want to get used to playing in time, because if you play in time, you'll be able to figure out your ideas a lot easier. We're just going to do things in 4/4 at 160. We're going to kind of mess around, to be honest. We're just going to kind of mess around at this tempo for a few seconds, just see if anything comes to mind while we track and just mess around. So I'm going to grab my Schecter here. Plug it in. Cool. We should have a sound. Let's quickly check to make sure that the volume is set, or the gain is set for the DI. All right, so you see that's a bit much. I could probably turn that down just a hair. Maybe just a bit more. Awesome. That's about what we want. Don't really need to worry about any of that. Now, let's make sure our click is on, and let's see what happens if we just mess around with this tempo for a few seconds here. Okay, yeah, so we got some ideas here. I really liked what was kind of happening around here. So, let's just kind of quickly work on that, get it a little tighter. All right, so I just spent a little bit of time trying to tighten it up. Now let's see what happens if we try to track it. All right, so I fucked up the very last end, but here's where the point is, just to kind of get the idea. Now, it's going to sound really rough. As you can see, I kind of fucked up a few times. I'm only going to let you hear this part here. Okay, so cool. Here's the beauty of just writing an idea. You can just copy and paste things over. Don't do this if you're actually writing stuff like to release stuff. I do not support that at all. But if you're just demoing ideas, don't be afraid to copy and paste sections just for the sake of having place markers on there. So now let's hear these back and forth here. So. Okay, so, it's all right. Like, I could definitely tighten it up, but the point is just to get the idea. So, next time around, maybe play around with it, hit record, move these down to, say, your guitar left so you can hear them coming out of one side and you can still work on your thing. Jam with it, and then see if you can think of something that you could do after it once you get to the next progression here. But first and foremost, let's make a marker. This is riff A. Now we know. Let's try to see if we can do something after that. But if you want to be sure that you hear it, maybe throw the amp sim on it. It might help things out a bit. You know what? I really kind of liked the second half of what I did there. The first half was a little sloppy, but the second half here, so let's just cut that in here. So from here, cool. So you know what we're going to do there? We're going to split that. We're going to delete that. We'll save that as a placeholder for now. I'm going to mute this channel. That's got a DI on it anyway, so we're not going to worry about it. And let's just, let's try to hit the riff one more time, just a hair tighter to the click, now that we have a more solid idea on what you want to do. Okay, so I think my guitar might be slightly out of tune, but that's all right. What we're going to do is we'll take care of that when we get to the next phase. Let's quickly listen over this and make sure that at least half of it is what we like. Fuck it, let's just keep that for now because we're going to move on to the next phase. The next phase of this is going to be quickly writing a drum part to your song. Now, it should be really easy. The point of this is just to get a feel for what's going on. So let's quickly listen with the click on. We're going to give ourselves just a little bit of a build-in just so we can kind of feel it out. Okay, so within this, I'm thinking maybe something on the kick and snare. Let's go right to the start here. So I know that my kick is C2, and my snare is D2. And I'm thinking I want my snare on 2 and 4. So, cool, that's awesome. Now to make my life a bit easier overall, I'm going to just go here quickly. Let's make that marker for riff B. The reason I'm doing this is so now if I load this up, notice how I can see exactly where I want to be. So now all I'm going to do is zoom in a bit more. We're going to place a few more of these snares in. And remember, these are just placeholders. Eventually, you're either going to want to completely rewrite your piece, or you're going to want to have a drummer actually do something to this. So what I've done now is I've copied with Control-C, and I'm going to paste these down on with Control-V to fill in all the space I need. I got about 4 bars left here I got to fill. So let's just take these 4 bars with a snare, and let's drop them in place. So now if I'm lucky enough, and you know what, for shits and giggles, let's change up the second half, and let's put the snare on 3. Just to allow us the ability to hear how the drums change the sound of the song. Because that'll really help you think of different ways you can execute beats while writing them. And always try and keep in consideration how many limbs your drummer will have. If you've never drummed before, that might be a bit difficult at first, but just really try to keep in consideration. Your drummer has 2 feet and 2 hands, meaning at most they can strike 4 things at once. So anything past that's going to be ridiculous, and really think about what the human body is capable of doing, because you don't want to be overly complex. So we've now got our snares, and let's kind of think of a kick pattern quickly. So again, nothing too intricate. We just want to hit the basic parts of the song. I'm thinking we got to like a kick there. Maybe kick there. No, let's go right there. And maybe a kick right there. And let's do that. Let's see how that sounds. No, that sounds a bit off, so. So I don't mind how that sounds. So notice I'm just kind of placing things in spots, thinking about where they would fit on there and listening back to how they sound with the guitar. And now that I got my basic beat, hell, let's just copy it. We know this is on the hard count. Let's do that 4 times. Or let's just do it to the entire thing and just allow the beat to have a basic flow. So I've done the entire first half, copy, paste. And just for fun, let's listen to this last bit here. Oh, see, no, you can hear I fucked up. Notice how that just really changed the entire feel of that riff. It's really easy to get locked into a certain way of thinking about things, but if you just allow yourself to change the beats here and there, even as far as from where your snare's placed, you can really feel the difference. Lastly, let's just find a cymbal that we're going to ride, and then we'll add a different crash maybe every few bars. So let's just quickly list if I'm like, I want to add maybe a different cymbal there. And then everything else, I'm just going to ride it on the quarter notes. Nothing too complex again. Just making things easy overall. Making sure everything is lined up and good to go. If you're wondering how I'm doing this, I'm holding down with the right click and then pulling and dragging and letting it overtake what I need there. So now you're going to notice something. As I copy and paste this, notice how that hard count there and this hard count here are going to land on the same thing. I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to click on it. Now I have removed it from what I need. So now I can just copy, Click here, paste. Voila, I'm good to go. And let's just quickly do the same thing there. Notice how I'm trying to do this so that I'm doubling up my speed. So I'm just clicking, copying, going to the second beat, pasting. And I think I only need to do that one more time. Oh, I kind of overdid it. That's okay. But now let's quickly hear how this sounds with drums. Now, essentially what you are going to want to do here is copy and paste this process over to the next cycle of your song. So now that you've kind of listened to this riff, listen to how it should transition. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly write a drum part based off what I think should happen using this exact same process, not being overly complex. And then we're going to cut in and you can hear how it sounds. All right, so we have it all set up. We have it all programmed. Let's open it up and let's see what it looks and sounds like. Cool. All right, so, and now that our drums actually, they have a good sound to them, let's hear how everything works. Now, it's up to you on how you want to do this. If you're not exactly sure how the riff went the first time around, I would advise maybe playing with it and then seeing how it goes. That may help you actually make sure the riff is what you are. So before you hit record, maybe just quickly go and play with it and see what happens. And after you've done that, then what you're going to want to do is quickly go through and just do a track take. Maybe mute your old one, but just see what happens. Now, once you've done that, obviously there are going to be some parts that aren't quite right because you're still writing these riffs as you go. I'm still writing these riffs as I go with you. So now we've had our guitars panned left and right, like I said earlier. The last thing you want to do is just kind of hear how they sound together. Obviously, some parts are going to be off, but so once you've listened over everything, quickly try to get as tight of a take on each thing as you can now that you have these ideas in place. That'll be the easiest and most effective thing for you. I'm going to do that quickly, and then we can listen over to what the results are after.
Okay, so I spent a little bit of time here just making sure that I had some good rough guitars for you to look at here.
So we have everything on our mixer going. We're going to turn this into a bit of a smaller thing. And we're going to enlarge these just a little bit so you can kind of see what happens here. So there's no mixing, obviously. This is just the DI through an amp sim and the drums doing their thing. But this is what you can do if you just put a little bit of time into learning all of this. And if you put a little bit of time into working with this. I didn't do a whole lot on the drums, but it was enough for me to feel off of them and slightly modify the riff to suit different vibes. And if you do that, you'll start feeling ways in and out of sections and in and out of different parts of songs. So let's give this a listen without the metronome on and see what it sounds like. This is what we did throughout this entire video. So this is what we started with, and now this is what it's become. Cool. It had a cohesive feel to it, and that's what I wanted to aim for. So I hope you all found this helpful. This is really something that I've been working on doing for a long time. I really love songwriting this way if I'm just at home working on solo material, or even if I'm demoing with a band or someone I'm working with. It's just very easy to be able to go about figuring things out this way and at least getting out an idea. And what I'll dive into a bit more next time is maybe working on how to figure out harmonies for sections. So we might not really focus too much on riff B, but maybe there's some stuff in riff A next week that we can harmonize in some sections, but we're going to have to figure out how to do that. And I'll show you how, not in Reaper, but in Guitar Pro. And then we'll also maybe go over how to program bass outside of Reaper to bring into Reaper, again, using Guitar Pro. This will, I think, be really helpful again for the songwriting process. This is just what you should be doing for demoing and even pre-production of your tracks. If you know what your drummer does and you're the guitarist and you know all your tempos and everything, this is the perfect way to get a pre-pro of your demo or whatever songs you want to work on together and ready to go. Later on, we can even maybe lay some vocals down to this and I can show you how to set that up. But it's really no different from what we've been doing with the guitar. So if you can figure it out beforehand, all the power to you. If not, well, I'll address that in a later episode. I hope you all found this really helpful, and we'll see you next week with the next part of our, I guess, impromptu in-depth series on how to use Reaper as a writing tool. Huzzah!